Hello again, everyone. This is HGhaleon coming again to you for another video review. This will be my third video. This time around, we have Indivisible. Just literally put about 25 hours into this game, and I'm a little torn by it. It's one of those things of it started off good, and then I started noticing the problems, and then things started to go downhill from there. So, as my usual, I like to start off, kind of give it just a general thought, and then I go into each category, and then I go through my final review. So, first category up, as usual, is the graphics and visuals. Very beautiful looking game. The animation is really nice for all the characters. Lots of in between frames. Very colorful, very large, detailed sprites. Definitely have a lot of little like anime cutscenes done by different famous studios, such as Trigger. Beautifully animated. Don't really have a problem with the visual. I do like the art styles in the same vein as Skullgirls, which is definitely a plus. Skullgirls definitely does have a nice visual look to it. It has kind of like a comic book anime art style to it, and I do like it. It is very unique. It's not something you see all the time, so I really don't have a problem with the graphics whatsoever in the game. It looks beautiful. It's just nice to look at. Very vibrant. The world's very colorful. The only thing I notice is the only things that don't get a lot of detail as much as the actual characters or like the background characters. I notice they just have pretty much just one standard idle animation. So, which consists of, X amount of frames, but that's really it. They don't have any different poses, or they use the same art. The portrait art is the same as the character model. It looks a little cheap. I would have liked it if they actually used a unique character portrait, or if they actually had different animations, but I know that probably would take too much time. So it's probably had to do cutbacks. But that's probably the only gripe I have with the graphics. Now, really not much else to say there. It's pretty solid. The next part is the music and the sound. Music is, I wouldn't say it's the greatest soundtrack I've heard. It's pretty good. It's not bad. But I don't think there's a lot of songs. The variety is kind of small. I mean, you do hear a lot of the same themes a lot because you're always traversing the same enormous large areas. So you do kind of hear the same melodies playing without the same area. There are some particularly catchy songs. I was like, oh man, there's some good ones. Like the last area song is pretty epic. But overall, it's good. The music is, I wouldn't say anything like huge to write home about. It's nothing legendary, but it complements the game enough where it's like, hey, it's good. It's all right. It works. And then the voice acting for the game is pretty damn good. There's a lot of characters I actually liked in the story. Whereas, like, damn, especially Razmi, nobody can not argue that Razmi is the best character in the game. She's so funny. Her monotone voice and the way she acts. She reminds me of Susie from Little Witch Academia. So definitely like her a lot. She's my favorite. I think most people's favorite is honestly her. But overall, the voice acting is pretty spot on. Minus a couple characters where I felt like the voice acting could have been a little better. And Ajna, I noticed her change in tone didn't really seem to change much when she's like, I'm mad, I'm sad. She sounded the same to me. I don't know if it's because of the person that was doing the acting. She has a heavy accent. I don't know much about her, so don't comment on me as fact. I'm just basing it on what I'm hearing in the game. But when I heard Ajna talk, and when different emotions were conveyed, I didn't seem like much of a difference. She seems kind of like she's just reading from the cue card. So I don't know. That's not the impression I get. Where other people, you can tell, are a lot better at voice acting. Like Matthew Mercer, you can tell. Obviously, that's his voice. His voice is pretty distinct. You hear him right off the bat, pretty close to the beginning of the game. But every other voice actor seems all right. Like I said, the voice acting quality is good. Christina V's obviously directs it, so she's known for doing that, and She's always been good at what she does. So, but overall, the sound department, it's satisfactory. It's not anything mind blowing. It's not, oh my fucking god. It's good. It's good enough. It works. Now, getting into the gameplay and controls. The controls are pretty responsive. I have no problems controlling my characters. Moving around feels good. Jumping. The combat's the combat execution is really good. There's no. I never felt like a need, or I felt an issue, or I was doing something and it just didn't feel right. It was like, no, it came out. Everything came out the way it was supposed to. The platforming is actually really good in the game. I actually enjoyed all the different platforming and all the different obstacles and using all your tools to get around. Just definitely felt very similar to akin of Guacamelee. Very similar. You can tell there's a lot of inspiration from that game into this one. The combat itself, like I said, it controls well. Nothing really bad to say about the controls. It never got to a point where it's just like, oh my god, this thing needs to be fixed. The controls overall are really responsive. And the gameplay, though, however, there's some issues. And I think there's some good points and bad points. The combat, for instance, is pretty fun. I love the combo system. There's different mechanics, like, it has like fighting game mechanics, like teching throws, perfect blocking, doing supers and stuff. That's really cool. The game's amazing to play in that regard. It starts off good, and then I noticed towards the end, because of the difficulty, like, the difficulty actually was really good in the beginning. It actually was a little hard. And then I noticed after a point, like, the AI is not all that great, and you can just basically destroy enemies without having to worry about any repercussions, because you're just so powerful because of how many turns you get. Because eventually you start earning more action points, which lets you take more turns. Enemies don't evolve in that regard, only you do. So you get up to like 5 action points, which is just overpowered as shit. Enemies just become a total joke. You're just going to bulldoze everything, sometimes even bosses, where you can literally just take out a boss in like a rotation or even 2 rotations, which is hilarious. But I think that was one big problem I had with the combat system. While it feels good, it's really unbalanced. You could tell they didn't spend a lot of time working on the balance issues with the game. I felt like, oh, it's good enough. It works. It's fun. We don't care about the enemy AI or the difficulty scaling. It's just going to be as it is. I can definitely see it. It shows. Another thing I was having a big problem with is the character development. Some characters in the game are, in my opinion, totally fucking worthless. They feel so undercooked. Like, you can tell they're just not finished. They were just thrown in together at the last minute and they're like, hey, that's good enough. Let's get the game out. You can tell there was a rush in the production. Particularly, I'm talking about I don't remember the names of the characters. I think it was named Young. The Chinese girl with the no arms. She's freaking garbage. She is, like, I think the worst character in the game. The only good redeeming quality she has is she's fast. She has no other moves. And I was like, wow, some of these characters don't even have special moves. Supers. Like, none. I was like, what is the reason for this? They just have normal attacks. And that's it. There's like 5 characters, I think, in the game that literally have no supers. And I didn't understand that at all. Like, they just feel so fleshed out. Like, oh, here's their special property. 1 special property. She can do air combos. I was like, okay, that's not really anything special, because other characters can do that too. So, it just felt like some characters really didn't get enough time just to be cooked in the oven. So they just feel thrown in there without any thought whatsoever It's like, hey, that's good enough. It's adequate. Just get the game out. Really had a problem with that. In the end, the game is pretty busted. There's certain characters that are just overpowered as hell, and you can just destroy the game with certain characters where you honestly don't even need a healer at this point. That's another thing with job balance. In RPGs, usually you want a tank, a healer, a DPS, usually the standard fare. This game, when you get powerful, healer is irrelevant. You don't even need a heal. Hell, I did the last fight. I don't even think I used a healer. It was all just, I think I didn't use a healer in that one, no. Like, most of the fights, as long as you have parry, which if you time your blocks perfectly, you gain life because of all the pips you have, there's really not a need to heal. So it's just go all DPS. So it's kind of silly. But again, going back to the whole balance thing, and that just contributes to it. You can see they just didn't spend enough time doing that stuff. And then these little nitpicks I'm talking about just keep going on and on. Another problem I had was with the map. It's not clearly labeled for some things. Indicators would kind of tell you go somewhere, and then you go there and it's not where it's supposed to be, and then you go to another part of the map and it's not there, and I'm like, okay, where am I supposed to go for this quest? I know what the quest icon looks like, but it seems like certain quest icons, when I go to them, they don't do anything. That got irritating. And then everything is color-coded, and I don't know what the color coding means. I'm just assuming it means certain sections of the map. It's like, oh, this is port. I think gray is port. Is that port? So again, it doesn't clearly tell you where things are. It feels like some of the map elements in the game are very archaic, similar to, if you guys ever played a game called Battle Princess Madeline. Same fucking problem with questing and mapping. It's just awful. It's something out of an old game. Like, I don't understand the developer's design choice in that. I thought that was really terrible. So, very unclear. Another thing I hated was the fast travel system. That is the most awful, god-awful traveling system in the game. Because it does no purpose whatsoever. It doesn't make anything easier. It doesn't even make it like sense of how it works. It's like, oh, you unlock the portal. Well, you can fast travel only to the portal. Or you could take the ship to the beginning areas. That's your choice. And the maps are so damn big. So there's so much running around. Like, some stuff is ridiculous how much running around you're going to spend. Good 5, 10, 15 minutes of running around. And you're like, well, I need to get to this middle part right here, but I can't because either I got to go to the teleport to the beginning or teleport to the end. I can't teleport to the middle. Even though I've been there before. I don't understand what the design choice in that was. I think it was stupid. Personally, I think the fast travel points honestly should have been the safe spots. You have a shit ton of safe spots. Why are the safe spots not the teleport points? There's no reason for it. You could totally use those as the option. End of story. I don't understand what their reasoning for how they did the fast travel system. The other thing I really hated was that. It was irritating to use. But, yeah, there's just these little nitpicks about the game where it kept bringing the score down. And then lack of really doing anything besides platforming and the occasional fighting. Which I noticed, after noticing the areas, a lot of it is pretty barren. Like, there's hardly any enemies. Like, it's mostly just running around platforming and looking for those crystals, those gems. That's really all you're doing. You don't really need to fight. Granted, I like the fact that you have to initiate a fight. But, yeah, I just felt the world felt kind of empty. It just felt like there was really not much obstacles. The platforming, that's it. The enemies are just kind of like, hey, we're in the background somewhere if you can find us. Some areas you can travel for a good 5 minutes and not run into a single enemy. So I felt like there needed to be more. There's definitely not enough side stuff. I'll be getting into the next part where it goes into the whole replayability thing. But yeah, gameplay definitely needed some more time in the oven. There's lacking elements where I think the game could have been a lot better. It just misses the mark. It feels undercooked. It doesn't feel finished. It really felt like they rushed production. I'm guessing they ran out of money and they were like, hey, we're on a time constraint. We need to get this game out. That's what I think happened. and it shows. And that's what's kind of disappointing. You know, I backed this 4 years ago, and then kind of just comes out. You're like, that's the feeling I got when I was playing it. Like, it's all right. It was. I thought it was going to be excellent. And I was like, no, it came down to it. It's all right. But now let's get into the final part. The fun factor: replayability. It's all right for a first go through. There really is no other reason to go back to it. Once you beat it, it's fun. I mean, the story's cute. The characters are fun. I like the world. But the combat after a while does get pretty repetitive. I mean, even though it is cool, it's just there's no challenge. So you just go through it and you're just dominating everything you're doing. And then there was there was one particular fight in the game. I don't know. I think it was where you're fighting what's her name, the Kala, when she's in a fight with Ajna in her demon form. She kept doing that beam super, and I noticed I couldn't parry or block it half the time. Like, it was bugged. I don't know if people ran into that problem, but my God, it was getting irritating. I was literally sometimes not even hitting the button, and it would block for me without hitting the button. So I'm like, okay, that's not supposed to happen. So I think there's some little bugs in the game like that didn't make any sense. So that was irritating. That fight was just annoying. I had to spend like 20 minutes redoing that fight just to eventually get it to work. I just don't know what was going on. Like, it wasn't reading my inputs at all. Like, I wasn't blocking. I don't know why. It's really freaking weird. Unless I didn't understand something in the game's mechanics. My friend actually had the same problem. So I was confused. Regardless, the whole game is not very hard. You go through it. There are side things to do which are completely pointless. Like, I guess, getting your affection meter up, the little hearts. So apparently the higher your hearts are, the stronger you get in relation to what Ajna's level is. But there's really no point to do those quests because it doesn't. The only thing it unlocks, I noticed, is you get the portrait artwork at the end of the game. Like, when you're doing the credits, it'll show their character's portrait art or some bullshit. That's all it does. There's no other side quest from what I noticed. It's just collecting gems and then helping your teammates with their 1 or 2 little quests, each character, and that's it. When you beat the game, that's it. You just get the ending and boom. There's no extras. There's no new game plus. There's no there's no hard mode. There's no, here's a side bonus mode. There's none of that shit. It's just, okay, you want to play it again? Not really. Not really at all. I didn't want to play it at all. I was completely done with it. I was like, you know what? Even with the DLC that's coming out, which is going to add, I don't know, X amount of new characters like Shantae and Shovel Knight, I don't think it's enough to merit a second playthrough. The game needs work. I would have rather Lab Zero take another year working and cooking that game. It could have been something great. And then at the end, I was just like, well, that just happened. I guess. Whatever. That's the feeling I got at the end. I was more concerned with being done with it than I was playing it, which is sad. You should never think that about a game is, let's get over it. Like, get on with it. Like, that's not the feeling I want. I want a game where it's like, damn, what's going to happen next? I didn't get any of that. It's just felt it, played it, and that's enough. Sadly, my review initially I thought was going to be an 8.0, 8.5 of the game, but yeah, it dropped. I think, and this is being fair, the game gets about a 7.5. That's my honest opinion. That's what it's worth, and that's the most it's going to get from me. Even if they fixed all the problems, add all the DLC characters, there's just a lot of quirks with the game that just don't feel like the game is done, and it could just use more time in the oven. They would really have to like make a definitive version with updated mechanics and stuff just to make it actually a really good game. It has potential, but it really missed the mark. I don't want to lie to anybody. I just didn't enjoy it as much as my enjoyment started to depreciate over time. So it is kind of unfortunate. But I hope everybody enjoyed the review. Thank you very much for listening. I will be doing another review probably in the foreseeable future. So you guys take care, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.